My name is Tim. I am into productivity, books, and mathematics.
I'm Ruben. I like physics, organization, and mind games.
In this podcast, we decipher our values, conceptions, and beliefs. Welcome back to another episode of Notion Devotion. Today, I have a guest on. His name is Seth Demoor. Welcome to the podcast, Seth.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you giving me the invite and letting me come on your podcast to share a little bit about my story and share about running and YouTube. And so, yeah, I just appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. So, yes, go ahead and share a bit about yourself. Tell me what makes you, you.
Yeah, so I'm a runner from Colorado, married with 4 boys. So busy life here in Denver, Colorado, but grew up here in Colorado, been running for 20 years. And went to Buena Vista High School and then eventually the University of Colorado. And oh my goodness, I love running and I love filming running as well, as you know, Timothy. So I have a YouTube channel all about running content. And yeah, so that's a little background on what I do and where I live.
Yeah. So guys, if you didn't know, this guy actually got me into running. Seth, you actually convinced me to buy the A6 Glide Ride.
Nice. That's awesome. Cool, man. Yeah, great shoe from, I guess, 2019.
Yeah. So, it gives you a little kick when you step forward. Is that from the shape, stack height, or something?
Yeah, that's from the shape, the angle of the midsole, and it's a pretty rigid midsole. Yeah, no, the Glide Ride was really a go-to trainer for me in 2019, and I'm so glad you discovered running through the YouTube channel. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So you have this YouTube channel, and you pump out high-quality content every single day. That's a lot of work, I'm sure. So tell me how you got started with filmmaking.
Yeah, I started in 7th grade and it really started from my dad, because my dad was a big photographer and still is a big he loves photography. So he taught me the artistic side of photography and what it takes to make a beautiful shot with framing, with lighting, with rule of thirds, with depth of field, all these different components that goes into making a beautiful photo.
Yeah.
So that was in 7th grade, and eventually I bought my own video camera, and just ever since then, I've been passionate about filming and making beautiful videos and seeking beauty on YouTube. So that's how I got started, though.
That's great. Like I said earlier, that's a ton of work for high-quality content every single day. How long does it take you from the start of filming to the end of editing? How long does that take?
Let's see. For the filming, it's usually 2 to 3 hours a day. And then for the editing, it's about 2 hours. So I'd say 4 to 5 hours total. But I'm fortunate because I can combine the running that I do every day with the filming. So it's kind of, trying to multitask as I create these running videos and then publish them. But oh man, there's a lot of different components that goes, because then you have to make the thumbnail for YouTube. You got to upload. So there's a lot of behind the scenes, even just simple things like making sure all your batteries are charged the night before. Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. So I did some maths real quick with the calculator. You take 76 days straight out of the whole year to make videos. That's insane for any habit.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, you're good. You're better at math than I am. That's awesome. Yeah, man, it's like the more you do something, just like running, the better you're going to get at it. So, yeah, I'm definitely passionate about it.
So, have you ever heard of the Productivity Tribe or the Productivity social group?
I don't think that I have specifically. No, what is that?
Okay, so have you ever heard of the entrepreneurs, how that they've got their own giant group? And well, apparently there's this giant world all about, you have the giant world about running, and you also have a giant world about productivity. And productivity is maximizing efficiency in all areas of your life, getting
Uh,
better at the things you do.
uh-huh.
It's basically the social group for self improvement.
Okay, nice.
And the reason why I thought it was suitable to have you on the podcast was because one of the aspects of self improvement is getting stronger, both mentally and physically.
Uh-huh.
And of course, running fits under the category of physical, uh, getting better at physical training.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. I love efficiency and productivity, so you're speaking my language.
There we go. There we go. So, I'm gonna go down a long rabbit trail, pun
Yeah.
intended.
Yeah.
So I have a question, but before you answer it, I want to give you a long piece of context. So I've actually been in this other social group in the past, and it's about Rubik's cubes.
Okay.
And uh, so basically, for Rubik's cubes, you can have there's this whole community where people solve Rubik's cubes, and they're called cubers, and they go to these competitions and meet up to see whoever can solve them the fastest.
Uh-huh.
And there's actually meets all over the country, but due to Corona, it's slowed down. There's not as many competitions.
Yeah.
But of course, there's different events. There's not just the 3x3 notorious Rubik's Cube. It goes like 2x2 through 7x7, and there's like the Pyraminx, which is the pyramid cube, and there's just other weirdly shaped cubes. So there's basically a large variety of events. So basically, I'm seeing a large symbolism between Rubik's Cubes and running. Um, because in running, you have different events to spice up the game. There's cross country, street races, mountain/trail running, marathons, FKTs, online races. You get the point. There's all lots of there's different events, just like in cubing. It's very symbolistic,
Yeah.
and also, and this isn't the actual question I was going to ask you, but would you say, from an external viewpoint, that cubing is like a sport?
Yeah, I mean, I know obviously it's not quite, I would say, well, it might be honestly, but it's obviously the physical demand might not be there, but as far as the competitive side, absolutely. And the mind is so critical in sports and
Yeah.
definitely in running, the mental component is really critical. So, solving Rubik's cubes as quick as possible or it's absolutely critical. So no, I would say it's a sport.
Yeah. So you mentioned it doesn't require physical. It's not as physical as running, which I agree. There's a you have to increase the vigility in your fingers, and believe it or not, there's this whole world of finger exercises even for cubing, which sounds weird,
Sure. No, I
but
believe it.
there's just stuff like that to make yourself. And of course, there's muscle memory, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
No,
So
absolutely.
I was just expanding your box on sports. I don't know. So I noticed that I was hitting a wall, as most people do when trying to get better at some skill. Everyone at home thought I was the fastest cuber in the whole state, and I thought I should cube professionally. I mean, people at home thought I should cube professionally. But when I got to these Rubik's Cubes meets or competitions, I was like one of the slowest to solve the cube. And I feel the same goes towards running. People think I'm really fast because I run a sub 20-minute 5K under my belt. But then I show up to a street race or a cross country race or something, and I'm smoked by several people my age and size.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, so this brings me to my observation. There is a difference between being perceived as an expert and actually being an expert.
Okay.
So, people at home think I'm really fast at running, but when I go to cross country race, I'm not fast,
Yeah.
relatively. So, I also noticed that to look like an expert is a lot easier than actually becoming one. When you appear to be an expert from the people at home, and you actually want to become one, you hit a wall during the conversion.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter how hard or well I practice, I can't seem to get where faster people are in both cubing and running, regardless of my daily training.
Okay.
So here is my question: how did you pass this barrier from converting from being perceived as an expert to actually becoming one?
Yeah, I think time is it's the that's the easy answer is and unfortunately it's the truth. Like you with endurance sports, you have to develop your aerobic system over years and years, not over months and months. Um, so unfortunately, that's the answer. Is like you can't now. 800-meter races are a lot different than 5Ks or 10Ks in college, or
Yeah,
definitely
definitely.
after college with a half marathon or marathon. But I've gotten faster because I've been very consistent at high volume of training while staying healthy and allowing my aerobic system to develop, and at the same time becoming a stronger, adult as well. So all these things go into the mix to becoming a faster runner. And a lot of people think that becoming a faster runner is doing more mile repeats, and I am definitely not in that camp. I think speed and interval training is important at certain points of one's running career, but at the end of the day, it really does come down to time and long runs and consistent long runs where you're really training um, at a high volume, but you're staying healthy at the same time. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, so staying consistent.
Oh man, yeah, so critical.
Yeah, that's like at school, one of our classes is entrepreneurship, and we were supposed to write down our 5 values, our top 5 values, and one of them I wrote down was consistency. So that's
Sure,
very important. Very important.
absolutely.
So aside from staying consistent, the actual little things that you get around, which you're big on emphasizing the little things in running, is
Hmm.
that like one of the things is about nutrition. Like getting really good at what nutrition you put in your body. It's one step to becoming a true professional or skipping that boundary, as I told you earlier.
Yeah.
How did you learn about running nutrition, and how can you summarize what you learned for us?
I probably picked it up the most from my dad. My dad eats very healthy, and then my sister's also, she's a doctor, and so she gave me a lot of tips as far as, not eating like processed sugars, and that's the biggest thing I think is processed sugars like cereals and um, you know, even like granola bars these days. Like a lot of a lot of people think granola bars are good for you, but it's just processed sugar. And so I try to keep it pretty simple in what I eat. I'm a big, protein as far as meat, and then salads, a lot of spinach salads, not just, iceberg lettuce. Um, and yeah, so that's my approach for how I eat, and that's where I learned it from, is from my dad and my sister.
Yeah, definitely. On the granola bars, all I could think of when you said that is the regular size granola bars, but it's covered in chocolate on the bottom.
Exactly. Exactly.
They even have chocolate chips embedded inside if you can't see it.
Yep, exactly. It's unfortunate because the kids, they just eat them and eat them and eat them, and I'm not saying it's completely bad. Like you can have them every now and then, but at the end of the day, you got to put good fuel in the body if you want to perform at a high level.
So I also know that having a mentor is another large part of becoming a great runner. So who were your biggest impacts of becoming such a fast runner?
Oh man, I mean, as far as a mentor, I had some really great, teammates at the University of Colorado that definitely taught me a lot about training hard and, being, just like taking risks in your training, calculated risks to get faster. Um, my brother, is a great runner. He ran at Foot Locker and was 10th in the nation at Foot Locker. So
Oh,
he's
wow.
yeah, so he's a very fast runner as well, and you've seen him on the YouTube channel. So,
Yeah, just a couple
um,
times.
yeah. So anyway, those would be a couple people, and I mean, obviously, there's professional runners that are always inspiring, but I don't have a mentor per se. I
Really?
just no, I don't. I'm a pretty self driven guy, and um I just listen to my body and listen to my, I train myself. I'm my own coach, but it takes, it's, again, I've been doing this for 20 years, so it takes years and years to develop the confidence to train yourself, and to have the discipline to push yourself. So anyway, that's kind of my approach to running.
Wow, that's really cool. I'm surprised you didn't have like some sort of cross country coach that like pushed you further. Like normally the fastest runners have these great mentors, but being self-coached is it's it's harder. Like you'd have to have a stronger personality or character to push through your training like that.
Yeah, that's what I love doing.
Yeah, but I noticed that like the average runner would be like doing the bare minimum to make his coach happy or whatever. But the people who push beyond what is bare minimum, they're the runners who become professional.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think honestly that's like key for success in life, especially like school grades and stuff like that. You
Sure.
can't just do the bare minimum if you want to become smart.
Yep.
Because if you're doing what everyone else is doing, how are you supposed to be better than them?
Yep.
Like genes aren't gonna cut it always.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I always say at the end of every vlog that I publish on YouTube, seek beauty and work hard and love each other. So work hard. It's really important.
Yeah. So how do you find the right amount to run? Because as you mentioned in many of your videos, if you run too much, you could burn out or get injured. When you run too little, you don't gain muscle and you don't develop a lung capacity, and you're big on that. So how do you find the correct amount to run?
Yeah, it's a little bit of trial and error. I always say I mean, everyone has to listen to their own coach and listen to their own body, but I think in high school, keeping it around 40 to 50 miles a week as a senior, even though a lot of programs go 70 and even higher.
Wow.
In college, I started out at 70 miles a week, eventually worked up to 100 miles a week. And right now, as a 35-year-old, I can train fine at 110 to 115 miles a week with a lot of vertical gains. So it takes, again, it's that patience game. And I always recommend getting to a volume where you're starting to feel just a little tired, and then just stay there for at least 2 months, and really like 2 to 3 months before you make that next step. And let's say it's like 40 miles a week, hold it for 2 to 3 months and just see how the body reacts. And then if you feel good, take a week, maybe even 2 weeks of downtime where you're running maybe 15 to 20 miles, and then go up to eventually, work your way up to 50 miles a week, just to make sure the body is adapting to the volume. And again, though, it's different for everyone, and it is a little bit of trial and error. I don't know. I just know like young people, their bodies are still developing, and that's when injuries can really happen if you run volume that's too high too quickly.
Yeah, definitely. That's really good advice. I'm going to take that home.
Nice.
Except I am home.
Nice.
So, is it worth buying several pairs of shoes for your different types of run from a teen perspective? Because as teens, we don't really get, too much cash flow.
I mean, I think you can get I think you can have one pair of shoes that can accomplish a lot, like the Nike Peg 37 is a great, or the Asics Nova Blast. So it could be a shoe. I don't think you have to get a ton of shoes. I think there is a benefit to maybe having one pair that's lighter that you could use for, let's say tempo days or interval days. But then the other pair is for your long runs or your basically daily trainer type of shoe. So yeah, no, I know money can be very tight when you're, in high school. So I think one or two pairs is just fine. And plus, it does help to have one pair of, cross-country spikes for racing.
Yeah. So I actually have a 10K tomorrow night.
Oh, wow.
So what are some last-minute things I could do before preparing, or to prepare for best results?
Well, I mean, make sure you're, mentally focused before the race, and that you feel, feel like you don't have any distractions. Stay calm at the starting line. Don't get too amped up, and just keep your heart rate low. Make sure you have a couple things you can repeat to yourself mentally as you're racing that you can, you know,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely do that. And what else? What else? At the end of the day, go out and have fun. Like, I think racing should be fun. So I think a lot of runners maybe get too worked up or a little too anxious, and
Yeah,
they
like
end up
nervous. Yeah.
yeah, they end up not having fun in the process. And so I think that's a really important thing, is to remember, you're doing this and you're having fun in the process.
Yeah, definitely. I've been there, done that. I've always had these like 5K races, and I'm like, oh, am I gonna get first place? I'm gonna get the prize or whatever. And after the race, I'm like, well, what was that? What was the nervous part all about? Like, I didn't have as much fun. I feel like that was the biggest limiting factor for having the most
Sure.
fun. Because running
Sure.
is supposed to be fun. Otherwise, you're dying like most people think you should.
Yeah. No, you gotta have fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. So 10K tomorrow night. Prepare with the mental side. I will work on that this time. This will be my main objective.
Awesome.
All right. So that is it. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks, Seth, for coming on.
Thank you, Timothy, for having me. And I look forward to, sharing my story with you and any listeners out there that want to join up on YouTube.
Oh yeah. So besides the YouTube channel, how can viewers connect with you?
Yeah, they can type my name into Instagram or Twitter. It's just Seth James Demoor all over, and the last name is spelled Demoor, no E at the end, and you'll find me. So all over social media, and probably the easiest way is to connect on YouTube.
Yeah. So thanks again for coming on.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim.
And that's the end of this episode. Thanks for listening.
If you liked this episode, please consider subscribing to us on Apple Podcast or your other podcast player of choice.
If you have any interesting topics for us to go through, let us know by emailing your idea to notiondevotion@gmail.com.
See you in our next episode.